Nobody knew that Jeff Bezos was about to make Donald Trump the most dangerous offer in history. The meeting wasn't supposed to happen. In fact, according to every official record, it never did. But on a cold February night in 2025, two of the most powerful men in America sat across from each other in a secure conference room 50 floors beneath the Amazon headquarters in Seattle, discussing something that would change humanity forever. Trump had been out of office for 4 years, but his influence hadn't waned. If anything, his media empire had grown stronger, his rallies larger, his grip on American politics more complete. Bezos, meanwhile, had quietly become something more than just the world's richest man. His space company, Blue Origin, had evolved into something far more ambitious than anyone realized, and tonight, he was ready to share that secret. The room was sterile, windowless, soundproof. No phones, no recording devices, no witnesses except the two men who had spent years as bitter enemies. Trump sat with his usual confidence, red tie perfectly knotted, but his eyes showed curiosity mixed with suspicion. Bezos looked different than his public persona, sharper somehow, more focused, like a man carrying the weight of enormous secrets. "Donald," Bezos said, his voice carrying none of its usual corporate polish, "what I'm about to show you will either make you my partner or my enemy. But after tonight, neutrality won't be an option." Trump leaned back in his leather chair, a slight smirk playing at his lips. "Jeff, you called this meeting. You flew me out here in secret, brought me to your underground bunker. Whatever you're selling, it better be worth the drama." Bezos pressed a button on the table, and the walls around them transformed into massive displays showing satellite imagery, technical schematics, and what appeared to be construction sites on the dark side of the moon. But the shocking part was yet to come. The images weren't just concept art or future plans. They were real-time feeds from an operational lunar base that had been under construction for 3 years. Bezos had used Amazon's logistics network, Blue Origin's space technology, and partnerships with governments around the world to build humanity's first permanent off-world colony, and he'd done it completely in secret. "Jesus Christ, Jeff," Trump whispered, staring at the displays. "Is this real?" "More real than anything either of us has ever built," Bezos replied. "We have 847 people living and working on the lunar surface right now, mining operations, manufacturing facilities, agricultural domes. It's completely self-sustaining and growing every day." Trump stood up, walking closer to the screens. The lunar base was massive, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes, solar arrays, and what appeared to be launching platforms. "How the hell did you keep this secret?" "The same way Amazon became unstoppable," Bezos said, "by controlling information flow, logistics, and making sure everyone only sees the piece they need to see. Every government thinks they're our partner, but none of them understand the full scope." The implications hit Trump like a physical blow. This wasn't just a business venture or even a technological achievement. This was the foundation of a new civilization, one that would make Earth-based governments obsolete. Whoever controlled the moon would control access to space, asteroid mining, and ultimately the future of human expansion. "Why are you showing me this?" Trump asked, his voice careful, calculated. Bezos smiled for the first time that evening. "Because I need a president. Not of America, of humanity's first space nation, and despite everything we've disagreed about, you're the only person alive with the political skills to make this work." And this is where everything changed. The offer was staggering in its ambition and implications. Bezos had created the infrastructure for humanity's expansion into space, but he needed someone who could navigate the political complexities of establishing a new nation beyond Earth's jurisdiction. The lunar colony wasn't just a base. It was the capital of what would become the first extraterrestrial government. "Think about it, Donald," Bezos continued, pulling up detailed political frameworks and constitutional documents. We're not talking about running for office or winning elections. We're talking about founding a civilization. The first president of Luna wouldn't just be a political leader. They'd be remembered as the person who led humanity into the stars. Trump's mind raced through the possibilities. Every president in American history had been constrained by existing systems, existing laws, existing limitations. But this would be different. This would be building something entirely new, with unlimited resources and no political opposition, at least initially. "What about Earth governments?" Trump asked. "You think they're just going to let us declare independence up there?" "That's the beauty of it," Bezos replied, bringing up economic projections and resource analyses. "By the time they understand what we've built, we'll control their access to space. Every satellite launch, every space mission, every attempt to reach asteroid mining operations, it all goes through Luna. We won't need their permission. They'll need ours." The strategy was breathtaking in its scope. The lunar colony controlled the gravitational high ground, making it the natural way station for all space travel. More importantly, the moon's low gravity and lack of atmosphere made it the perfect launching point for missions to asteroids containing more rare metals than existed in Earth's entire crust. "We're not just talking about political independence," Bezos explained. "We're talking about economic dominance that would make the oil economy look primitive. A single asteroid contains more platinum than has ever been mined on Earth, and we'll control access to all of it." Trump walked to the window, or what he thought was a window, until he realized it was actually a real-time feed from the lunar surface. He could see people in spacesuits working outside the domes, vehicles moving between installations, the Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue marble. "How many people know about this?" he asked. "On Earth?" "Maybe 50, all under ironclad NDAS with consequences that go far beyond lawsuits. On Luna? Everyone there believes they're pioneers building humanity's future, which they are. You haven't even seen the biggest surprise yet. But the lunar colony was just the beginning." Bezos activated another set of displays showing construction projects throughout the solar system, asteroid mining operations in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, a research station orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa, preliminary surveys of Mars that went far beyond anything NASA had ever attempted. "Jeff, this is insane," Trump said, but his voice carried admiration rather than criticism. "You've built a space empire while everyone was watching you sell books and cloud computing." "The greatest magic trick in history," Bezos agreed. "Misdirection on a planetary scale. While governments argued about climate change and trade wars, I built the infrastructure to make Earth's problems irrelevant." The scope was staggering. Blue Origin hadn't just been developing rockets. They'd been creating an entirely new economy based on space resources. The lunar base manufactured everything needed for further expansion: solar panels, computer chips, even food production systems that worked in zero gravity. "But here's what makes this offer urgent," Bezos continued, his voice taking on a darker tone. "Other governments are starting to figure it out. China launched 3 research missions to the moon last month that were actually reconnaissance flights. Russia is suddenly very interested in their dormant space program. We have maybe 6 months before this becomes a race, and if we're not positioned correctly, we lose everything." Trump understood immediately. The first mover advantage was everything in space. Whoever established the first permanent presence, the first mining operations, the first independent government would control humanity's expansion into the cosmos. But if Earth governments united against them, even Bezos's head start might not be enough. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Trump asked. "Move to Luna. Establish the government. Build the political framework that turns a collection of engineers and miners into a civilization. And do it before anyone on Earth can stop us." The request was unprecedented. Bezos was asking Trump to leave Earth permanently, to become an exile from the planet where he'd built his entire life and career. But he was also offering something no president in history had ever had: the chance to literally create a new world. "Wait a second. Don't miss this detail. The timeline was aggressive, almost to the point of impossibility. Bezos wanted Trump on Luna within 3 months, establishing governmental structures within 6 months, and declaring independence within a year. But he'd thought through every detail with the same obsessive planning that had built Amazon. "We have the transport capacity," Bezos explained, showing Trump the specifications for Blue Origin's newest spacecraft. "Completely reusable, faster than anything NASA has ever built, and capable of carrying everything you'd need to establish not just a government, but a media operation that could broadcast to Earth." That last detail caught Trump's attention immediately. The political possibilities were staggering. A president broadcasting from the moon, with unlimited resources and no opposition party, could command global attention in ways that were simply impossible on Earth. Think of the rallies, Donald. Think of the speeches. The first human leader speaking from another world, with the Earth visible behind you. Every word would be historic. Every decision would shape the future of our species. Bezos had done his homework. He understood exactly what motivated Trump, what drove his ambitions beyond mere wealth or power. This wasn't just about politics. It was about legacy on a scale that dwarfed every leader in human history. And the business opportunities, Bezos continued, would make your Earth empire look small. We're talking about industries that don't even exist yet. Space tourism, orbital manufacturing, interplanetary shipping. You wouldn't just be a president. You'd be the founding CEO of humanity's expansion into space. The offer included equity stakes in every major space industry that would develop over the next century, mining rights to asteroids worth trillions of dollars, control over the space lanes that would become the trade routes of the future. It was wealth and power on a scale that made Earth-based fortunes irrelevant, but there was a catch, and Trump was smart enough to see it coming. "What's the real timeline here, Jeff? You're not building all this just to hand me the keys. What aren't you telling me?" Bezos paused, and for the first time that evening, he looked genuinely concerned. "China knows. Not everything, but enough. Their next lunar mission isn't research. It's an invasion force disguised as scientific exploration. If they establish a permanent presence before we declare independence, everything we've built becomes a war zone. What you've seen so far is nothing." The geopolitical implications were staggering. China hadn't been idle while Bezos built his lunar empire. Their space program had been conducting secret missions, gathering intelligence, and preparing their own expansion into space. But unlike Bezos's business-driven approach, China's space program was purely military. "They're not interested in mining or commerce," Bezos explained, showing Trump classified intelligence reports that Blue Origin had somehow obtained. "They want strategic control, military bases, weapons platforms, the ability to threaten any nation on Earth from space." The documents were terrifying in their implications. China's real space program dwarfed their public efforts. They had been launching military satellites disguised as commercial communications equipment. They had been testing weapons systems in orbit. They had been preparing for exactly the kind of space expansion that Bezos had been building. "If they get to Luna first with a military presence, everything changes," Bezos continued. "Not just for us, but for every free nation on Earth. Imagine nuclear weapons platforms that can strike anywhere on the planet with no warning, controlled by a regime that doesn't recognize any authority but their own." Trump understood military strategy well enough to grasp the implications. The moon was the ultimate high ground. Whoever controlled it could dominate Earth's orbital space, control satellite communications, and potentially threaten any target on the planet's surface. "So this isn't just about business," Trump said. "This is about preventing China from turning space into their personal weapon." Exactly. And it's bigger than just China. Russia has been rebuilding their space capabilities in secret. The European Union has been developing technologies they claim are for asteroid research, but could easily be weaponized. Every major power is preparing for this moment, but they're all thinking like Earth governments. Bezos brought up strategic analyses that showed how traditional military thinking failed in space. Earth-based nations were limited by gravity, atmosphere, and the enormous costs of reaching orbit. But a lunar-based civilization could build and launch spacecraft at a fraction of the cost, with access to unlimited solar power and resources. We have the advantage right now, Bezos explained, but only if we move fast and think differently. Traditional governments want to extend Earth-based authority into space. We want to create something entirely new. The plan was audacious. Establish Luna as an independent nation before any Earth government could react, then use economic leverage rather than military force to maintain independence. Control space commerce, control asteroid mining, control the infrastructure that every Earth nation would eventually need. It's not about conquest, Bezos emphasized. It's about evolution. Humanity needs to expand beyond Earth, and whoever leads that expansion will determine what kind of species we become. You won't believe what happened next. Trump stood silent for several minutes, processing everything Bezos had shown him. The offer was unprecedented in human history, the chance to become the founding leader of humanity's first space civilization. But it also meant abandoning everything he'd built on Earth, taking enormous personal risks, and facing opposition from every government on the planet. "Jeff," he said finally, "this is either the greatest opportunity in human history or the most elaborate suicide mission ever planned. Maybe both." Bezos nodded. "That's exactly what it is. But consider the alternative. If China controls space, if authoritarian regimes dominate humanity's expansion into the cosmos, what kind of future are we leaving for our children?" The question hung in the air between them. Both men had children, grandchildren, legacies they cared about beyond their own ambitions. The decision they made in this room would determine not just their own futures, but the future of human civilization itself. "What about my political base on Earth?" Trump asked. "My media empire, my influence in American politics?" "You'd be trading influence over one country for influence over an entire species," Bezos replied. "And frankly, American politics is becoming less relevant every year. The real power in the next century will be in space, and we have the chance to control it." Bezos brought up polling data and social media analysis, showing how Trump's message of American greatness could translate perfectly to human greatness. The same populist appeal that had won elections could be adapted to unite humanity behind space expansion. Imagine the speeches, Donald. "We choose to go to Luna, not because it is easy, but because we are great. Because Americans, because humans, don't accept limitations." You'd be speaking not just to voters, but to history itself. The appeal to Trump's ego was calculated but also genuine. This really would be the ultimate stage, the ultimate audience, the ultimate legacy. No president in history could claim to have founded a new world. "And the practical considerations," Bezos continued, "are actually in your favor. No opposition party, no hostile media, no congressional gridlock, just the pure ability to build something great without political interference." The offer included complete control over Luna's governmental structure, media operations, and economic policies. Trump would have the kind of executive authority that American presidents could only dream about, combined with resources that made Earth-based wealth irrelevant. "How long do I have to decide?" Trump asked. 72 hours, Bezos replied. "After that, Chinese intelligence will figure out what we discussed here, and the window closes forever." Bezos hesitated for a moment, his hands tightening on the edge of the table. His usual calculated calm was gone, replaced by something darker. Fear. "Donald," he said slowly, his voice low and urgent, "there's something I haven't told you. If you're going to make this decision, you need to know the full picture." Trump raised an eyebrow, suspicious. Full picture? Jeff, you've already shown me a secret moon city and the end of Earth politics. What could possibly be bigger than that? Bezos took a deep breath and tapped a command into the holographic console. The room went dark, and a single satellite image appeared in the center of the air. It was the surface of the moon, but not their colony. This was something different, something hidden. Jesus Christ, Trump muttered, leaning closer. The image revealed structures buried beneath the lunar surface, faint glowing lights arranged in perfect geometric patterns. They weren't human. These scans were intercepted last month by one of our deep space probes, Bezos said, his tone grave. We thought at first it was just natural formations, but then we picked up energy readings that shouldn't exist. Someone, or something, has been there a long time before us. Trump stared at him, stunned into silence. Are you saying we're not the first? Bezos nodded grimly. And it gets worse. 2 days ago, one of our covert satellites captured movement. Not just lights, vehicles, operating under the surface. Whoever, or whatever they are, they've been watching us build our colony. Trump slammed his fist on the table, his voice rising. Why the hell didn't you lead with this, Jeff? Because if this leaks, Bezos snapped back, Earth governments will panic. They'll turn this into a military operation, and the entire dream of a peaceful space nation will be lost forever. We can't risk chaos. Not yet. The images shifted, showing a series of cryptic symbols etched into the lunar rock near the hidden base. We don't know what they mean, Bezos admitted, but my team believes this. Civilization has been dormant for thousands of years, and now, because of us, it's awake. Trump leaned back, his mind racing. So we're not just racing against China or Russia. We're, what? Negotiating with aliens? Fighting them? Bezos locked eyes with him. We don't know. But if we don't establish control first, they will. This isn't just about the future of humanity anymore, Donald. This is about survival. The room fell silent, the weight of the revelation pressing down like a physical force. Trump looked back at the glowing image of the hidden base and muttered, almost to himself, the most dangerous deal in history just got a whole lot more dangerous, just when they thought it was over. But the meeting wasn't finished. Bezos had one more revelation that would change everything. He activated a final set of displays showing not just the lunar colony, but communication logs with other space programs around the world. There's something else you need to know, Bezos said. We're not the only ones having this conversation. Right now, similar meetings are happening in Moscow, Beijing, Brussels, and New Delhi. Everyone knows that space is the next frontier, and everyone is preparing to claim it. The displays showed intelligence reports from space agencies around the world. Russia was secretly preparing a military lunar mission. The European Space Agency was developing weapons systems disguised as asteroid mining equipment. India had been launching reconnaissance satellites to monitor other nations' space activities. This isn't just about us versus China, Bezos explained. This is about preventing space from becoming a battlefield between Earth nations. If we don't establish an independent, civilian-controlled space civilization, then space becomes an extension of Earth's wars. The stakes had just increased exponentially. This wasn't just about business competition or political power. This was about determining whether humanity's expansion into space would be peaceful and prosperous, or violent and dominated by military powers. Every science fiction story about space war starts the same way, Bezos continued. Earth governments extend their conflicts into space, turning the cosmos into another battlefield. We have the chance to prevent that by creating something new. What would you have done in his place? Standing in that underground room, surrounded by displays showing humanity's secret expansion into space, Trump faced a choice that no leader in history had ever confronted. Accept Bezos's offer and become the founding president of humanity's first space nation, or stay on Earth and watch as others determined the future of human expansion into the cosmos. The implications went far beyond personal ambition. This decision would influence whether space became a realm of freedom and opportunity, or another battlefield for Earth's conflicts. Whether humanity's expansion into the universe would be driven by exploration and commerce, or by military conquest and authoritarian control. "Jeff," Trump said finally, "I've made a lot of deals in my life. Good deals, bad deals, deals that changed everything. But I've never made a deal that could literally determine the future of human civilization." "Which is exactly why it has to be you," Bezos replied. "Anyone else would be overwhelmed by the scope of it. You're the only person I know who would see this as an opportunity rather than an impossibility." Trump walked around the room one more time, studying every display, every document, every piece of evidence that Bezos had shown him. The lunar colony was real, the resources were real, the opportunity was real. The question was whether he had the courage to take a leap that would make everything else in his life seem small by comparison. "What's the first step?" he asked. Bezos had been waiting for those words. "We launch in 48 hours. You'll be on Luna in a week, and we'll establish the government before China can react. From there, we build something that will last for centuries." The timeline was aggressive, almost impossible, but both men had built their careers on achieving the impossible. This would just be the ultimate version of that approach. "And you're sure about the legal framework?" Trump asked. "International law won't prevent this?" "International law was written by Earth governments for Earth governments," Bezos replied. "Luna is beyond their jurisdiction, and will establish legal precedent that space belongs to humanity, not to any nation." The legal strategy was as audacious as everything else about the plan. Rather than challenging Earth governments directly, they would simply operate beyond their reach and establish new legal frameworks for space-based civilizations. Everyone thought the truth was revealed, but the real shock was. 2 days later, the world watched in amazement as Donald Trump announced he was taking a brief vacation for personal reflection. Nobody knew he was actually boarding a spacecraft that would make him the first political leader to govern from another world. The launch happened at night, from a Blue Origin facility that wasn't supposed to exist, using technology that made NASA's best rockets look primitive. Trump sat in a cabin more luxurious than Air Force One, watching Earth shrink behind him as he traveled toward a destiny that no president in history could have imagined. The lunar colony was even more impressive than the displays had shown. Sprawling domes connected by tunnels, manufacturing facilities, farms growing food in artificial sunlight, and a communications center that could broadcast to every corner of Earth without interference from any government. Within a week, Trump was broadcasting from the lunar surface to audiences around the world. His first speech as president of Luna was watched by more people than had ever seen a single event in human history. "My fellow humans," he said, with Earth visible behind him through the dome's transparent aluminum windows. "Today, we begin humanity's true expansion into the universe, not as Americans or Chinese or Europeans, but as human beings reaching for the stars." The reaction on Earth was immediate and intense. Some governments condemned the Lunar Declaration of Independence. Others quietly began negotiating for access to Luna's resources and technology. China announced their own lunar mission would launch ahead of schedule, but it was already too late. Trump and Bezos had achieved something unprecedented in human history. They had founded a new nation beyond Earth's reach, established the first space-based government, and positioned themselves to control humanity's expansion into the cosmos. But the real test was yet to come. Earth governments were preparing their response, and the future of human civilization would be determined by how well Luna could maintain its independence while Earth decided whether to treat it as a partner or a threat. The most audacious business deal in history had succeeded. Two men who had started as rivals had become partners in reshaping humanity's future. And it all began with a secret meeting that officially never happened. From his office on the lunar surface, President Trump could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. But he wasn't looking back. He was looking forward to a future where humanity's potential was unlimited by the constraints of any single world. The greatest adventure in human history had just begun, and it started with the most dangerous offer ever made.